Hi, welcome back to the final whistle then for another stream on the channel. We're going to review the season 24-25 as Leicester City went to the Premier League and then straight back bloody down again. We're going to chat with Ian Stringer about, as a fan, as Leicester City. We're going to chat about his thoughts about the whole season. We're going to chat with Imran as well. And yeah, we're going to get everyone's thoughts, obviously, in the comments as well regarding the season as a whole. We're going to talk about everything that the fans want to know, really. What's happened, how has it happened, and all that. Guys, as always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And before I get my guests on, let's listen to a little piece of commentary that I picked up from the man himself.
Kanoko forward. He's got Wood next to him. Anthony Kanoko finds Wood. Wood should score. Wood finds Kanoko. Yes! It's in! Yes! Anthony Kanoko has done it! Nottingham has been painted blue. Anthony Kanoko has scored the goal. It's the goal. Allez le bleu! Allez le bleu!
And that is him. Ian Stringer, how are we?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. That was a long time ago, by the way.
Do you know what? I think that was your best piece.
No, never.
In an East Midlands derby, I think that's the best one.
Thanks. I'll take the Tillerman's winner in the FA Cup final in 21 over that, but thank you. That's kind of it. Thank you.
It's crazy. Ian, hope you're well, though. What are you up to these days, Ian?
I'm a freelance commentator, so I will work for different outlets, really. I would do some work for Talk Sport, I do some work for Sky Sports, done some work for a bit of work for ITV, and I'm doing quite a lot of event hosting at the minute as well. I've been event hosting alongside my commentary for a long, long time, 20 odd years. So yeah, I'm hosting lots of events and standing on stages and doing that. So yeah, enjoying it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Let's get Imran in. Imran, how are we?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Good to see you, mate.
I am very good. Well, I'm glad the season's over, but yeah, it's just time to reflect on everything and then start prepping for bloody next season in the Championship again. But we've been here before, haven't we, boys? Leicester City are very much the roller coaster side. I think you have to go through the bad times to enjoy the good times as a fan, and we've seen the good times, and now we're kind of back to having a bit of a blip in how things have gone. Not the greatest, but Ian is a fan. I mean, a roller coaster is how you would describe it, wouldn't it? Supporting Leicester City for all these years.
Over the years, goodness me, yeah, it has. It's always been a roller coaster being a Leicester fan. I went to my first game in the early 80s, and they were in Division 2 back then, and I saw them in Division 2 through till the mid 90s when they beat Derby in '94. So for my lifetime, it was always they were always a second tier team, promoted to the Prem in 94-95 with in 94 with Walshy's 2 against Derby and in the Prem and back down, and there's always been something, whether it be a fire extinguisher in La Manga or winning the Premier League. There's always something at Leicester City that keeps us entertained.
It does. Imran, I mean, Leicester City, I mean, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think Ian's summed it up quite well, actually. So I think I'm same era as Ian. Went to those 3 playoff finals. Walshy getting the winner or the decisive goal against Derby. But those 2 playoff finals, I mean, my best memory was, I know we lost, but the 4-3 game against Swindon at Wembley. My late dad took me there, converted us to a Leicester fan. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster ever since, mate. And I I still play with Julian Joachim now and again, right? The five-a-sides and stuff.
Jockey,
Yeah.
good player.
We've had some great players. Jamie Vardy is obviously the latest one to leave the football club after so many years. Ian, let's take your mind back to the start of the season. Enzo Maresca leaves. Steve Cooper comes in. What was your initial thoughts on it, Ian? With Steve Cooper replacing Enzo Maresca, do you think it was more of a panic decision by the club? I mean, was it planned? What was your initial thoughts on it?
I thought he was probably one of few candidates that wanted to take the job, knowing the squad that the club had, knowing that there was a potential points deduction coming in for the club in the Premier League, which, of course, the greatest signing of the season, Mr. DeMarco, managed to drop the shoulder on that one, which was impressive. A loophole, bad drafting, but Leicester City did well to avoid that. And I think he was probably the best of the bunch that were willing to take it, given the circumstances the club knew they were going to find themselves in. People talked about Graham Potter, and I think he's a really good coach, but he didn't come, and you can see why, because the squad wasn't good enough. The squad isn't good enough.
No.
And you didn't want relegation on your CV, and that's what's happened. It isn't under Cooper's tenure, it's under Nistelrooy, but I think the writing was on the wall, and that's why somebody like Cooper was appointed. It was a bit odd for me with the Forest connection. I've not really got a massive Forest problem, but geographically, wherever you are in the county, some people do have an issue. I don't think that was a massive problem. I think the players just weren't good enough. The squad just isn't good enough to compete at that level.
I agree. Imran, we spent a lot of money. £80 million is what we spent in the summer transfer window. We obviously sold Kane and Dewsbury Hill to sort PSR matters. Obviously didn't mean to be the case, did it, with Leicester getting off the hook with the Premier League and then beating the Premier League. Obviously we brought in signings, Jordan Ayew, Deco Dover-Reid, Caleb Okoli, Odson Edward. Who else did we bring in? Oliver Skip. Yeah, we spent some money, Imran. I mean, talk to me about Cooper's signings. Imran, you're muted.
Sorry, mate. I think what Ian said about the manager, same thing applies to the players as well. Yeah. Because of this PSR grey cloud we were under, I think that also dictated our transfer strategy as well, because players, at the end of the day, they're mercenaries, right? They want to come to a club and do well and go up that table. And if there's that 12-point, 10-point, 8-point deduction, which was rumoured, it does put players off, because it's in their contracts that how high they finish as well. They'll get certain bonuses, etc., etc. So I think that all played into it. And as a result, we ended up with second-rate players, unfortunately, with the exception of Bilal Al-Khanous.
Yeah, Buonanotte, Ian.
Yeah. Good players. I think on their day, difficult in attack-minded positions when, the fulcrum up front is only Jamie Vardy, and that replacement hasn't been found. I think Al-Khanous has stood out. Buonanotte has stood out, but others haven't. Oliver Skip certainly hasn't. Okoli hasn't. Some of the squad just have flattered to deceive. It's got to be said. So. Some of them, I think some of them are a real concern. Some of the signings, if someone's paying 25 million quid for Oliver Skip or 20 million quid for Oliver Skip, that's a real concern for me. So I think they were fishing in the wrong pool, and they've certainly got some signings wrong this season. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Imran, who do you look at for that? The signings, obviously, John Ruckin discusses a lot in his role at Leicester, financial stuff and that. Obviously gets signed off by the man himself at the top. We've made mistakes, haven't we, again this season, which have cost us. But, I mean, how Ian spoke about the players being bad, Okoli's, players like that. I mean, how do you sort of see it with the signings? Who do you really point the finger at?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, right? It has to be pointed at John Rudkin. Now, we don't know what happens. Obviously, it's very I don't know. The fans are never sure, right, who's doing what. But John Rudkin is the man that we are being told that deals with the transfers. I think, again, as Ian said, right, like we're going into the Premier League, right? So we've come into the Premier League with a weaker squad than we had in the Championship. And I knew straight then, right, that we're going to struggle. I mean, I was just looking at a video that I posted on one of my socials, and I predicted we'd finish exactly where we'd finish, 18th. And I was right because, and I had the two teams that got relegated. I guess it was obvious, but I knew we'd struggle because we lost KDH, who was our engine in midfield. We lost Iheanacho, who was a good backup for Vardy instead of Daka. So I know Iheanacho is put on the pounds, but he can still find the net, right? If we needed him, for example, he'd be better than Edward, right? And then we lost Dennis Pratt as well, right? Which I thought he was a quality player. He would have done probably a lot better than Skip, right? So I knew straight away that this is going to be a long, tough season.
Ian, Steve Cooper last 12 Premier League games in charge, obviously beating Southampton and also Bournemouth. How do you sort of sum Steve Cooper's time up at Leicester? I mean, fans say in hindsight he probably would have got more points than Van Nistelrooy. Do you think that's maybe the case, or how do you kind of look at it from a fan's perspective?
Well, the truth is we don't know. So it's a futile argument, to be honest, because nobody knows. Nobody knows would Steve Cooper have won more games or won fewer games. I don't think he was getting that much of a better tune out of the same players as Ruud did. I don't think there was a huge marked difference when he came in, and that's of course what the club were hoping when they brought Ruud van Nistelrooy in. There was going to be that new manager bounce. That didn't happen, and there's an argument to suggest that actually there was very little momentum picked up when Ruud came in, which of course was disappointing from the club. But I just think that goes to prove the point that the players that Steve Cooper was using, or the players that Ruud van Nistelrooy was using, just fundamentally aren't good enough. They're just not of a level. So Steve Cooper couldn't get the same tune as Ruud van Nistelrooy couldn't get out. That kind of points to one way, that they're just not good enough, and they're not. You know, we've all watched enough football over the years between us to know a good quality player. And there's flashes in there when Mavropanos fancies it. There's flashes in there when obviously Fatu was fit and okay. But again, you got to remember, so a lot of these players were untested in the Premier League as well. So there was a bit of a gamble. Enzo Ball going, I think, had an impact. But you know, you look at Sheffield United this season in the Championship and how well they've played with Hamza Chowdhury, by the way. And you know, they've looked okay, and Burnley have scored goals, 100 points, not conceded any. That's great. The gulf between the Championship and the Premier League is only growing. So I don't think Steve Cooper would have gotten any more than Ruud van Nistelrooy hasn't out of those players.
Fair enough. Imran, Leicester take the gamble on Ruud van Nistelrooy then. Obviously, did it all right in his time at Man United, despite beating Leicester City 2 times. Ruud's time at Leicester, 27 games, 19 defeats in them 27 games, by the way, in all competition. Won 4 and drawn the rest. Talk to me about Ruud's time at Leicester. A lot of tactical perverse and that, with changing a lot of things from formations, keeping with the same players in Jordan Ayew, the Cordova-Reid and players like that for a certain long period of his time. How would you sum up Ruud van Nistelrooy's time at Leicester?
Extremely disappointing. That would be my summary of him. I was excited when he joined. I'm not going to lie. I thought, brilliant, we've got a manager here, right, that's got a little bit of street cred. Aura, yeah, maybe connections in the transfer window. That's what I was thinking, right? That in January we're going to go out and he's going to get all these Dutch players, these exciting players that he's got contacts with at PSV, etc. But it just didn't work for him. I think he came to the realization that the squad's not good enough, like what Ian's just said. Yeah. And then I think he just went stubborn, right? He went defensive. Thought, right, let's play a defensive game, play on the break, which we never did. Because we can't defend, and I think he just said, right, I'm just going to play this defensive game. We'll try to keep the goals out, and try to catch him on the break. And let's be honest, it was watching paint dry, wasn't it? It weren't good, especially that period where we went, I think, 11 games without scoring or something.
Ian, Rude's time, 9 defeats at home without scoring in a row. Obviously, a record in the top flight. I mean, I think his only away win came against Tottenham, which is worrying, isn't it, Ian? When you're not scoring and you're not even winning games, it's a very worrying formula for a manager, who was very much under pressure.
Yeah, but are you surprised? Because you look at the strikers that he's got. Look at the strikers. Jamie Vardy, that's not capable of playing that many games at that level for that long now. Greatest player to ever play for the football club, a hero, and there should be a statue of him in the middle of town, and I think
Agreed.
there will be. But he's not able to do the job that was being asked of him. And then what happened with Tom Cannon? He wasn't fancied. They brought in Jordan Ayew, and he's looked atrocious. Every time he's gotten the ball, his touch looks poor, his passing looks poor, his condition doesn't look particularly great either. So I've not been impressed with him whenever I've seen him play. And yeah, what's happened with Edouard? I'm still perplexed by what's happened there myself. Anyway, a player the club had looked at in the past. He was at Celtic, so the firepower they've had isn't good enough.
No.
So I'm not surprised why was everybody shocked that they weren't scoring goals when Jamie Vardy's the age he is, and there's never been a progression underneath Jamie Vardy. Now,
Agreed.
whys and wherefores about that are up for debate as to why that's happened, but it doesn't surprise me. I'm not surprised that they weren't able to score goals because the strikers that they got just weren't capable.
I agree. Leicester always relied on him, didn't they, Ian, over the years? They never benched him or anything. They'd always rely on him for 90 minutes, and he always needed somebody to fill in for him at times. And obviously, the club never really looked in that direction. You had Daka, not good enough. Edouard comes in, £4.6 million on wages for Odson Edouard at Leicester, and man's not even been playing at all. He's been played 29 minutes. Tom Cannon sold him for 10 million quid to Sheffield United, and then Vardy and Daka's the only two left at the club.
Why might that be?
Poor decision making.
Eddie?
I think Ian knows something we don't.
No, I just think it seems to me to be pretty clear what's happened in the striker department and situation. If you think logically about over the years, Musa, Slimani, Cannon, Edouard, Jordan Ayew, Iheanacho. Nobody's worked, but they're different strikers and they're different types of strikers and they come from different clubs and they come from different leagues, but nobody's worked at the club. Midfielders have, wingers have, defenders have, goalkeepers have, but a striker hasn't. Wonder. It's a heavy shirt to wear when somebody like Jamie Vardy.
Are you suggesting like the formation as well comes to play here? Because since we've gone 4-3-3,
I don't. I think there's been so many different managers, Imran, that have tried and failed, and personnel that have tried and failed, and the constant has been Jamie Vardy.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting, and again, he's the greatest player to ever play for Leicester City. He will be the greatest player to ever play for the football club, ever. Got his book behind me on this bookshelf. Hero, right?
Yeah.
Now he's gone, and that shirt may not weigh as heavily, and that responsibility isn't as large, and the spectre of the greatest ever always being around may help in terms of the culture at the football club, in terms of the environment within the striker department. It might help, especially being in the Championship, it might help draw a line under the greatest ever, and in that department, allow the club to rebuild.
I agree. Imran, Jamie Vardy's farewell this season. 200 goals, 500 appearances for the football club. As his whole 13-year career on the day he signed for the football club. He said farewell. Not the ideal circumstances regarding relegation, but his career as a whole, Imran, the greatest of all time. The GOAT, legend, icon, whatever name you want to use in the phrase of Jamie Vardy, a complete shithouse. And for me, it's the case of now, I don't think you'll ever see another Jamie Vardy at Leicester City again.
Yeah, well, not in our lifetime, for sure. But you know what? Like the first 2 seasons when we signed him, I was living abroad. I was in the Middle East. And when we signed him, I knew straight away this guy was a player because he had the raw attributes, right? He had pace, he had fight, he had tenacity, he had that, I keep saying it, fire in the belly, right? And unfortunately, we talked about this a few days ago, Jack. There's a lot of players in our team that just don't have that fire in the belly. They just don't want to play football. They don't want to run. But Jamie Vardy wants to run. He wanted to run. And most of his goals come because of his hard work, right?
Yeah.
He's not the most skillful player, right? But when it comes to instinct, work rate, and finishing, he's up there with the very, very best. And yeah, for sure, we're going to miss him. But we also, as fans, it was a privilege, right, to watch him for 13 years at the KP, and then all the away games that we attended, and he scored those amazing goals, and going to the away fans with all the shithousery. But yeah, I don't think we won't see a player like that in our lifetime again. And
just remember how much he terrorized defenders. Virgil van Dijk, when he was at Southampton, he made him look a mug. He put Ashley Williams, a big rock bull at the back at Swansea, put him on his backside because he'd gone and had a pop at Riyad Mahrez. By the way, would they do that about this 11? Would this 11 protect each other like Vardy did that day for I don't know whether you remember, but Ashley Williams picked on Riyad. Skinny little Riyad winger, and he's got into it, but Vardy's going, I ain't having that, bang, have some of that, he's gone flying. Would this squad do that?
No.
There you go. There's a potential problem. But please remember the elite level that Jamie Vardy was at in terms of terrorising defenders. And as the years go, I think we'll reflect on it with much more love and nostalgia, but also the quality. I don't think Jamie Vardy got enough credit for the quality he had as a footballer, for some of his finishing and his feet. He was so quick. And I remember being pitch side one time when they were warming up. I think I was interviewing somebody pitch side, and they were warming up, and I was close to the line, but I wasn't looking at the pitch because I was doing something. And I swear to you, I heard a whistle as he whistled past me. He was that quick. He was frightening. So, let's also remember how, and Imran's right, he's that kind of Paul Dickov, wouldn't give up, horrible, pain in the backside. You play against him. We've all played it. Get off, pack it and leave me alone. And he just wouldn't leave people alone. He was a marvel. He really, really was.
I remember a few times, like the ball's going out of play, we're giving up on it, and Vardy gets to the ball, like he'll chase the ball down and keep it in play and win a corner, win a throwing. So that's what we're lacking, as Ian's saying, right? That's what we're lacking. This squad, I mean, we see, I don't want to pick players out individually, it's quite obvious, but players like Soumare and Winks, I don't see them putting in those hard yards. And obviously the way we won the league back nearly 10 years ago now was because every player put in those hard yards. Even Robert Huth did. And he was, let's just be honest, he was slow as anything, right? But he'd put in those hard yards as well.
Well, Harry Winks won't even stay one night in a hotel, will he, to help the squad? No. So that tells you all you need to know about some of the attitude of some of the squad. Manager wants you to stay over one night. He does, manager tells you. He's the boss. Exactly. If you've had a child or not, congratulations, and it's great and it's life changing. And I've got 3, and they're, love them to pieces, but it's your work. I stayed away when they were little nippers, when they were newborn babies for work, because I did the job I did. That's what you've got to do. Or maybe move a bit closer, but actually, just playing into what Imran's just said, that culturally is, I think, where the club are, and somebody needs to throw a grenade into that because it's toxic. And if they're not careful, if that keeps purveying over the King Power Stadium, just keep an eye on the trapdoor below, because Luton have just proven that you've got no right to stay in the Championship.
Yeah, we've proved that as well in the past as well. We've fallen down that door.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is the issue, Ian, with the club? Obviously, people have spoke about mismanagement, bad decisions and all that, but do you think Leicester have stood still? They haven't moved with the times as well as other clubs have. You look at what Brentford are doing now, Bournemouth, Brighton, them types of teams who are really competing now to be at the best of where Leicester was once before. They've sort of took an eye off the ball now, haven't they? And we've got our situation and we just haven't seemed to release like the problems. We haven't sort of done anything with them. We just allowed everything to happen.
I find this argument interesting,
Go
Jack,
on.
because
Express it.
people talk about Brentford and Brighton, and they've gotten away, and we should be like Brentford, should be like Brighton. Okay, no problem. I'm going to sit opposite you at a table. I'm going to say you can have Brentford's last 10 years, or you can have Leicester City's last 10 years. Which do you want?
Leicester City. All day.
Right. So what Brighton won?
Nothing.
There you go. What Brentford won?
Nothing.
Okay, so well done. You got some players in and you got them on the cheap and you paid them cheap. Well done. You're in the top 10. Well done. You've got a £100 million striker. Well done. Congratulations. Leicester City won the Premier League. Argument over. Now,
I agree.
Isn't to say they've gotten everything right. Quite the
No.
opposite. They haven't. But I think we need to be really careful going, oh, look at them. They're doing well. Oh, look at them. They've done well. Leicester won the FA Cup, they won the Premier League, they got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, they won the Community Shield. They were feared by everybody, and yes, they finished fifth, should have finished fourth. By the way, take fifth now, wouldn't we? Should have finished fourth, finished fifth, should have finished fourth, finished eighth, should have finished fourth. Okay, they didn't. But let's just get the context of all of this right.
Yeah.
Brighton have recruited really well, well done. I agree. Leicester City's recruitment isn't good enough. There have been managerial errors, they have. But let's just make sure we're getting the context of all of this right.
Yeah.
Well done, Brentford. Congratulations, they're in the top 10. Leicester won the Premier League. So I think let's just be careful with going, oh, I'm going to buy those trainers because my mate's wearing them and they're great. I'm going to buy that because my mate's wearing it. It's great. No. You've had your own outfit and you look all right. You've done okay.
Exactly.
Proud of that, be okay with that. But it's what your point. The point here is that you're not going to be able to progress on winning the Premier League. You're not going to be able to progress on winning the FA Cup. They've never done it before. So it's where is Leicester City? Where are they? Who are they? And all my life, they've always been a second-tier team, going up a bit, maybe coming down, stay there, go up. That's where they are now. That's what they've always been. It just so happens that what happened in those few years happened. So, yes, there's been mismanagement. Yes, the recruitment hasn't been good enough. Yes, they've bought some players that haven't performed. But I don't think that's exclusive to this season. I think they've done that. I could reel off some players in the last 10 years, even players when they won the Premier League. Johan Ben Alwan, the season after, was he a great signing? No, but they got to the Champions League quarterfinals with him somehow. So it's not the only season they've recruited badly. However, I think there needs to be change, and I think there needs to be structured change from the top. I think that Kuntop will show a level of leadership if it's needed.
I agree. Imran, I mean, what's your initial thoughts on it? I mean, where do you think it's gone wrong, Imran? Obviously, Strings talks about recruitment not been good enough. A lot needs to change at the top of the club. Top will need to make these decisions, let's be honest, at some point. But how do you see it, Imran, from your perspective?
Yeah, look, I think we've also got to be very careful as well, right? In criticizing too much. But I think the club is run fairly well, like from an operations perspective. Like, I don't know, I don't have a problem. I enjoy I know there's a lot of people complaining about season tickets and the cards, they're going virtual, but I don't think fans understand that it's a Premier League initiative now. Like from next year, I think 90% of tickets need to be virtual tickets, like mobile tickets. So it's being implemented by the Premier League. So the fans will get on the bandwagon and blame the club. Oh, they're not listening, etc. It's not that. I've been to a few meetings. They do listen to those things, but they are being pushed to go virtual. By the way, so the season ticket card thing, I don't understand fully. Why fans are complaining, but from a a holistic perspective, yes, Ian's right. I think we've gone wrong from a transfer perspective for the last 4 or 5 years. We've not recruited well. Someone needs to be held accountable for that, or a group of people need to be held accountable. We're obviously match going fans, not the ones that watch it on the telly. So we want to see a bit of entertainment. And over the past 3 or 4 years, especially that last Brendan season, it was pretty dire watching Leicester City. Okay, Enzo came in, but it was still we got promoted. I didn't quite enjoy it. I don't know what Ian's views are on Enzo Ball, but I didn't enjoy it. The home games were pretty dire. We were winning, but I went edge of the seat stuff for me. That's what football's all about. So transfer wise, I think that's where it's all gone wrong. Our recruitment strategy, I think it's if we can get that right. And then obviously the second part after you've recruited the player is the wages, right? Making sure that the right wages are being given to the right players, not overpaying for players. Because when you want to get rid of that player or sell the player at a later date, it's very difficult to get rid of that player now, as we've seen with various like Vestergaard, Sumare, Winks, etc. It's hard to. Danny Ward's another one. Luckily, his contract ran out end of this season. But there's a number of players that are sitting there on huge wages, and they're not in the team, and that can't be good for the club, right, as a whole.
Do you think this is the biggest problem, Ian? Obviously, a lot of fans touch on the wage structure, Champions League wages, should we call it, for these players. A nice training ground and everything like that. They've got the luxury life, haven't they, of the money they're on and all that. But the club they've just gone probably the wrong way about everything regarding wages, haven't they, with these players?
So, sorry, to clarify the question, Jackie, are you asking, do I think the players are on too much money? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, yeah.
Yeah, I find it a challenge when there's reports that they've paid Harry Winks 20 grand a week more than Spurs were paying him to drop down to the Championship, and none of us know the inside of all of these contracts. So I think we need to be mindful of that, and I think we need to be fair to the individuals. However, it's quite clear that they're paid over and above. You look at the financial results in terms of player wages, they're too high. They're clearly too high, but that's because they had the feast of gorging on Champions League money and gorging on top 10 in the Premier League money and everything that came with that. So how do you put that genie back in the bottle? If you've got Jamie Vardy on 100 a week and you're trying to bring in a Mitoma, for example, as Brighton did, on relative peanuts, compared to somebody like Vardy, how do you do that? Because it gets around the dressing room really quickly, where he's on X. Managing that's just impossible when you've got some big earners. So I think what the club have tried to do, like with Kasper Schmeichel, and now Jamie Vardy, is to try and respectfully see an end to those days. I just really hope that they get a level of wage structure back in the club that's reflective of who they are and what they want to be. Leicester City aren't going to finish in the top 5 in the Premier League again. They're just not. They're probably not going to finish in the top 10 in the Premier League again. They're just not. So I think they should be recruiting with that in mind. You can't go to Harrods and use a Tesco club card. So I think they've got to be smart with where they shop and what they've got to shop with, and I think that recruitment So Riyad Mahrez, right, bought him for 500 grand from
Great player
in the Championship. Jamie Vardy in the Championship. Danny Drinkwater in the Championship. Wes Morgan in the Championship. Kasper Schmeichel in the Championship. I can keep going.
Yeah.
All these players were bought at the level where you're in the Championship, so Riyad can drop one out of the sky, do what he wants. You play him Preston. It's okay. You can have a go. It gives you a chance to. I love a coach that says try and fail rather than don't try and be scared. You tried, you failed, try again. Try and fail, try again. Tried and failed, try again. Try and fail. And I think in that league you can do that. So they recruited those players under Steve Walsh, who, by the way, need to mention here because he was a genius in terms of recruitment.
Agreed.
I'd like to see them recruit with the bravery that they had then, rather than the tried and trusted throw money at it and hope that it works. And I'd like a little more strategy to their recruitment. In fairness, you look at Mavadini, good player. Good player. Is he a Premier League player? Probably not quite, but he's still got time to develop. Fatu are the same when he's fit, God bless him. So I think what they need to do is they need to take this as a moment, to answer your question, where they can draw a line in the wages and hopefully recruit people that are within the wage budget structure they should have, and get people that want to prove something. Mark Albrighton, released from Aston Villa because he weren't good enough, came and won the Premier League.
Fantastic player.
Wes Morgan couldn't play for Forest because he was too big, apparently. Came and won the Premier League. Nathan Dyer wasn't needed by Swansea, came on loan and walked back with the Premier League winners' medal. Le Havre's a fishing village in France, where Riyadh came from. Came and won the Premier League. Jamie Vardy was a nobody, relatively speaking, Stockbridge Steels. These players all had a point to prove. Drinkwater, released by Man United, not good enough. Casper, your dad's a better goalkeeper than you. All of these things are players that had a point to prove. Go back to that. Find the players that have got a point to prove, that have got something in them that says, I'm going to win today, I'm going to dig in today, and I'm going to create the team mentality, the team spirit that will hopefully get them straight back up next season.
Yeah, but I think, Ian, as well, we lack a lot of leaders in that team.
Yes.
So it's just the whole thing. We've not got no workhorses, but on top of that, we're lacking leaders. Agreed. So it's a double whammy.
I totally agree. So you get the good mix of you experience. You bring in experienced players that have done it, but again, they've got a bit of a point to prove. I was hoping Connor Cody would be one of those.
Yeah.
I was, but
I think he'll be okay in the Championship though next season if we keep him. I think he'll be okay for that experienced head in the group.
Yeah, I hope so. But one thing's for sure, Jack, is that the recruitment team needs to work hard because there's a lot of work to do. And also, while we're on recruitment, let's also give a bit of praise for the academy. People like Munger have come through, and we're thinking this kid's 15 years old. He's brilliant. Clearly, he's going. I think he's going to Manchester City. But you look at him and think, again, well done the academy, but well done the club, because whilst we're throwing a load of mud at the club, fine. Yeah. People are throwing mud at the owners. Be very careful with that, by the way. Be very, very, very careful with all this King Power out.
Yeah, you have to be careful what you wish for.
Very, very, very careful. Would be my advice.
Look, I just want to say, Ian,
if he walks tomorrow, who's paying the bills?
Exactly. And you know what, Ian? I'll tell you one thing. King Power, the people who want King Power out, okay, Top's made mistakes, there's no doubt, right? But he's also given us the greatest ever memories Leicester fans will ever get, right? In my lifetime, I would never have thought that Leicester City would win the Premier League, FA Cup, Community Shield, European tours. He gave us that. So let's give. They've got King Power have got a lot of credit in the bank as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
respect is what he deserves. So let's be respectful. And again, King Power out. Okay, cool. King Power. He walks tomorrow. Who's paying the bills?
Yeah, there's some deluded fans out there that I think a Saudi prince is going to come and take over.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Never going to happen. Yeah.
Grow up. No, and I think it's disrespectful. I understand people going for management. I understand people going for players. I understand. Go for Top. I understand it. Voice it in a manner that can be a little more respectful than sack the board. By the way, who's the board? Who's on the board?
Top
and his brother.
Yeah.
Right. So this whole sack the board, just understand the makeup of the voting board, by the way. King Power out, mate, have a real serious think about that, because when they were on the pitch at Wembley lifting the FA Cup, Top was, and we were all lauding him. Same geezer who now is trying really hard to deal with a different landscape in football with PSR, and no excuses. No. But he was still learning under his dad, who he tragically lost. He's now recently married. He's got twins. He's got a Belgian football team. He's got a British football team. He's got a fleet of of a stable of horses. And also, by the way, if ever you've been to Thailand, which I'm lucky to have done a lot,
I just came
place
back.
the size of King Power when you go
Great
out there,
place.
they run the airport. They don't just sell Toblerones in shops. They run the airport. Imagine being the company that runs Heathrow. That's what they do. And
Ian,
every inch of retail space they sell. That operation must keep him awake every night. Now, he's made errors and he needs to fix those errors.
Good.
He's not, he should take responsibility and will. He's not
Criticism.
immune
Yeah.
from criticism. But
Yeah.
let's just have a bit of context, shall we? That he was on the pitch a few years ago, lifting the FA Cup.
Where do you think he needs to change it though, Ian, going forward, heading out next season and that? Is it the case that he moves Rudkin to the side and gets a proper football advisor in to help him going forward? Or where do you sort of see it with him? What sort of decisions does he need to make?
John's still in charge of the academy, isn't he? Rudkin, I think, still heavily involved in
I'm not
the
sure.
academy. Yeah, so he's
Yes.
a director of football. So
Yeah.
the academy is his baby. So Monga comes through. Are we giving John credit? Or are we not, because that don't fit the narrative? Nah. The other kids come through. Evans comes through. Nah, that don't fit the narrative. Chilwell comes through. KDH comes through. John Rudkin bought Jamie Vardy for £1 million. Now, again, all I'm asking for is a bit of context.
Yeah.
I know John like I know
Fair enough.
anybody else at the football club. I don't have a friendship or necessary relationship with him. However, I think context is important here.
Yeah.
Yes, I think managerially there needs to be some modifications in how it operates and how it works.
For sure.
Think some support could be and would be needed.
Yeah.
But I think they missed that kind of boots on the ground recruitment that unearthed some of the players that they managed to get. And that wasn't necessarily John's job. I'm not putting the blame at the feet of the scouts because I know some of the scouts and they're outstanding. I just think it's what they're shopping for is what they. I've heard lots of people this season talk about the club now being soulless. They've got no direction. They've got no identity. The club feels gone, and I think that's where this is seated. The club needs an identity. Who are you? What do you want to be? Go and recruit players
plan.
that fit that. Recruit
Yeah.
those players. So it's easy to sit here and go, oh yeah, Rudkin should go. Okay, his CV don't read bad. His academy has produced some players that have gone through this season. He got 80 million quid for Harry Maguire. You know, he's
We had
done
Man United
okay.
for that one.
You know, so and listen, he's not an angel, but he's not the entire problem. He's not. He's reigned there when they've been successful as well. So again, let's take time, which is what the summer's for. Top can take a couple of weeks to have a real deep think about who he wants. For me, this is the issue. Who he wants to lean on as his footballing people to make footballing decisions.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what he needs to do. And if that's John, it's John Rudkin. If it's not, and I think it's going to be a challenge for it to stay John, I've got to say,
It is.
then I think he needs to make some changes. But all I'm asking for is a little bit of context. Bear with me, everybody, because my daughter's just arrived. What do you want?
That's fair enough.
Put the
Imran.
on then.
This season, I mean, 25 points, the lowest ever points tally from Leicester City in a Premier League season. Some would call it the worst ever Leicester City side in the Premier League, by the way. I know some would look at Peter Taylor's side. Talking about the team and that and the points tally and that, how do you sort of sum it up?
Look, I think the last 4 games, where we did pick up points, I think we should just, as soon as we got relegated, you should look at that points tally, right?
Yeah.
Because I think once you get relegated, if players, they want to either play for their futures or they've got no pressure. So I don't really count those points we won after relegation. I know we won about 7 points after relegation, right? But it's been dismal. It's been absolutely dismal, and I think it's disappointing, right, for a fan. And I saw it coming, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad. I knew we'd struggle, but it was actually worse than what I thought it would be because obviously, we go to the games, You want to see close matches. We never got that, right? We never got a close game. We didn't get goal mouth action, especially on our end.
We were getting hammered.
Yeah, we were getting hammered most weeks. So yeah, it weren't a great watch. But look, I know Ian was stretched for time, right? I just wanted to ask Ian a couple of questions, if you don't mind, Jack.
Yeah, go ahead, mate. Floor's yours.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, right, like we don't know about the manager situation just yet, right? What would you rather keep Ruud or go with the rumored Russell Martin?
Yeah. So on that, I go back to the point I made initially, Imran, which is that I don't think the cards that are in Ruud's hand are particularly conducive for the Premier League. Oh, sorry, everybody. Apologies.
All right.
I don't think that the cards that Ruud was dealt in the Premier League were particularly helpful or easy for him.
No.
From what I hear, the lads like Ruud in terms of training sessions. He's a progressive coach. He did well at PSV as well, we know, and then there were a few kind of wranglings there. This doesn't win you games of football, but he's a good guy. He's a really personable kind of person. I've dealt with him a bit, and if he deals with the players as he deals with people I've seen him deal with, including me, then I think he's really fair with them. I think he's really fair and honest, and I think that bodes well. I'd like to keep him because I think in the Championship he'll be a good manager. I have got a real soft spot for Russ because I know him. So that's a tough one for me. The first ever game of football I reported on was in 2004. It was Wycombe Wanderers against Cambridge United, and in that starting 11 was Russell Martin.
All right.
So I knew Russ for a long, long time, and have his number, and we've chatted over the years, and I've really enjoyed watching him climb. Ross is a good manager if indeed he comes in. He again is progressive, stubborn in that he knows what he wants and he'll go out and get what he wants. Analytically, he's very sharp. He's a very sharp manager, very, very sharp. He'd lose a fight with himself in a phone box, but that's not a bad thing. Nigel would do the bloody same, by the way, Nigel Pearson. So, they've got the godfather of that approach, haven't they? He'd rule with a relative iron fist. Yeah, not a really strong iron fist, but he don't suffer fools gladly, Russ. So I'd really like to see Russell Martin in charge if they do move Ruud on. I hope they don't. I think they will. It looks like they have. And when they're looking for a replacement, if they appoint Russell Martin, I'll be really, really pleased. In that league, he's good. When they move into the Premier League, will he be good enough? I don't know.
So can I ask you a follow-up question then? Why is it taking so long? Like, there's all this speculation about PSR.
What's the rush?
Rush's season's over, right? So
what's the rush? Everyone's on
shouldn't we be planning for next season already?
They are. They're just not talking about it.
Okay, so you think there are things going on behind the scenes, right?
Of course, but this is 2025. This is social media. Why have we not a statement?
Yeah.
Need a statement. Why have they not backed Ruud? They don't need to. Why have they not sacked him? They don't need to. There's no game. There's no players to recruit right now. Now, I understand the argument of you don't want a manager in charge when the window opens and you're getting players in without a manager. That makes sense. But right now, there's no massive rush. They've got a week or two from here on in a bit of breathing space. Now, the problem is if they're chasing their tail when the window opens and they're not getting targets that they want, I get it. But I think we need to look underneath that and look at the PSR problems that the club have got, such that there's not going to be loads of transfer business anyway. Let's be right. When Brendan all of a sudden wasn't signing everybody and everyone was losing their edge. Why not signing? What's happened? It was really clear what happened. He had the drawbridge pulled up on him. Because PSR, that was really clear to me at the time, and I struggled to understand how people couldn't see that. So, I don't see why the club needs to make any statements. I don't see why the club fans want appeasing. I want a gold-plated Rolls Royce. I ain't gonna get one. The fans ain't gonna get one. Tough. That's just how it works.
Yeah, but it's not good PR, is it? I think that's what it is. Because obviously, I sit in near the away fans, right? So I'm in K1, L1 area, and it's getting quite toxic in there. So I would have thought as a football club, a statement to come out apologising. Like Amarim at United, he came out and apologised as the manager and said, "Look, we weren't good enough, and we will try to do better next year." Like something along those lines. Obviously,
Klopp did that in his program notes, did he not? He did that in his program notes, and
come on, who reads program notes nowadays, right? That's the
not
thing.
his fault. That's
Yeah,
not
I
his
know.
fault, is it?
You're right. Yeah.
So I'm sure I read his program notes, and they reflected that it wasn't good enough because I did the first game after they were relegated at home for TalkSport, and there was concession from the chairman. There was not good enough, want to be better. He said all the things you'd expect him to say. So what do we want? Blood? You know, he's gutted. He's millions and millions. He's just written off what, £145 million debt. He ain't over the moon either, by the way. So I don't understand what do we want? We want him. What? Yeah, he does a Q&A with the fans every month. He writes a statement every month. He updates everybody every day on his schedule. It's easy to say let's trust people, but when the trust is lost, it's difficult to trust them. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. You've been trusted this year. It's gone wrong. Why should we trust you in the summer to make the right decisions? I get that. I do get that. I just wonder whether, here's what I wonder. I wonder, is he starting at the very, very top, and then he's going to try and work his way down to any restructuring he wants to do. If you do the manager now, and then there is a director of football change, or there is a chief executive change, or there is a director of operations, whatever change, you then kind of going back up to do that change. Is he maybe trying to do the changes in a linear fashion to get them right? I don't know. I don't know that, but
maybe Ian's giving us a little inkling in Brad about what's happening. Maybe.
Yeah.
So
my last question then. Yeah, my last question, Ian. Next season, what are your projections? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we've got a good? I personally think the Championship's a poor league, right? And
I love it. I love the Championship. My daughter and I love going to Championship games.
It's competitive. There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt it's a competitive league, right? But it's a poor league when it comes to quality, right? We'll have a great games next season. So I'm just interested on, you've watched Leicester City for a long time. What are your projections for next season? Do you think we're going to have a good promotion push? I think we've got a fairly good young squad. And I think we'll have a fairly good chance, depending on points deductions and all that good stuff. But I think we'll have a good chance in hitting those promotion spots. Definitely top 6. That's my view, because I just see this season, right? Like Burnley got promoted, Leeds were there or thereabouts last season. They got promoted this season. Sheffield United got to the final of the playoffs. Sunderland were pretty good last season. So just wanted your thoughts on next season. Give us some positives, or you're being, let's see if you're going to be negative or on the bench on this one.
No, 700 Leicester games, incidentally. I managed to get through 700 the 700 mark this year, which I was particularly proud of. Professionally, I've covered 700 games. I've been watching them for a lot more than that. But I think next season, do you know the bit I find really hard? And one of my best mates, Jason, who used to work with me at Radio Leicester, Jason Bourne. Great bloke. His name. Lovely geezer. Checking into a hotel with him is fascinating when he tells reception his name's Jason Bourne. He and I disagree on this massively, because I'm not that. I nearly said I'm not that bothered. I'm finding context really, really difficult, because I saw Leicester City win the Premier League. So when you win the Euro Millions, if you win 150 million quid, right? And then 2 years later you buy a scratch card and you win 50 grand. Bothered here?
No.
That's Leicester City. They've won the Euro Millions. They can't win any bigger prize. Anything that goes well is a scratch card. So I think that's just my personal view. Like I never dreamt that they'd ever achieve what they achieved, and it's 10 years next year. Next season it's 10 years ago. I really hope that they're competitive. Of course, it's difficult for me to do this, because my heart rules my head. I want them to be promoted as champions on 155 points. I want them to be up by the time February comes around. But actually, I think it's going to be a difficult league. I think they're going to get a points deduction. I really hope it doesn't get worse before it gets better, but I fear it may.
Yeah.
I fear it might be a bang average season in the Championship next season, and they may put a splurge on and nick a playoff place, but I hope they win it. I hope they win it doing cartwheels. I do. But the recruitment's huge. The structure of the management's really important. Who the manager is vital. The wage, as we've said, is hugely important. So I hope they win the league, but I fear it's going to be a hard season, mate. I think I think it might be a bit of a slog. I'm sorry.
All right.
I've got one
Let's
last
see.
question here before I let you go. I know you're a busy man. So next season, then, do you sort of look at it now as a reset period to start again?
Yeah.
Get a young squad together, build around individuals like your Ben Nelsons and that going forward. But do you think it'd be a bad idea to have a few years in the Championship to just progress again and get the club back to where it should be?
I think if Top was listening to this, he'd definitely say it's a bad idea, especially for his wallet. It'd be a horrendous idea to stay in the Championship for any longer than you need to. Like, I love it. I think it's
Not rebuild,
competitive.
yeah.
I think the quality of football is decent. There's loads of games. It's kind of hustle and bustle, harem scarum. It's great. But I don't think the club want to stay there. Restructure wise, no, they will want to. They want to reset in the summer. They want to appoint a good manager or keep Rude in charge, and they want to hit the ground running. They want to go win, win, win. All of a sudden, people go right. Leicester on 9 points. Yeah, it's kind of like in a race around a track. If you Mo Farah last lap, you could break their heart in the first 100 meters of that last lap. You've beaten them because the next 300, you've broken their heart. They're gone. That's what Leicester want to do. They want to go early, August, September, just go bang through those 2 months. And everyone's looking up going, oh, great, they're gone. Right, let's scrap for a second, as they did when they came up last time. That's what they'll want.
Yeah.
I don't think football allows you the luxury of resetting. I just don't. Because if you do that, you go down again.
Yeah.
To chapter 11, and you'll be in League One. So I don't think, having a reset's great. Do you know what would be great? Like, it would be just for the banter. Would be getting somebody like Nigel Pearson in as a consultant, just to instill a little bit of that grit. I'm not suggesting he comes back as manager, and many people will be surprised to hear me even mention his name, because he and I didn't get on, let's say. But now, for the record, we get on great. But just in terms of reset, why don't you reset some of those bits? Why don't you get somebody in that's going to be gritty and going to instill a little bit of, culture? It needs some culture. It needs, and that's what Nigel was great at. You think Harry Winks tells Nigel Pearson he ain't staying over for a night a week? Wow.
No change.
Run fast. If you just tell him that. Run
quickly.
fast, because he would have gone mad. You wouldn't have dared say that. So I think, in terms of a reset for me, it's culturally make the changes you need to change, and that's going to be change management, and that's not nice. It's going to be horrible, tough. Deal with it. You don't want to sign up to this. Get out. Ain't having it. And I think they need to do that with a few people, and it'll mean they'll lose players. Tough. Get a bit of steel. Get a bit of backbone. Who are the club?
Yeah.
And hopefully make work from there. And if that is the quote reset that people want, there needs to be some structural changes in the management, probably in terms of upstairs. For me, but here's the kicker.
Go on.
We'll all be there to watch.
Of course we will.
Because
100%.
the song says through the good times and the bad, right?
Exactly
and
that. Yeah.
we will always be there, and that is why the fans should be listened to. When tens of thousands are chanting that they want change, it's disrespectful if the management don't listen. You've got to listen. You've got to hear what's going on. Read the room. Listen to the mood music. Make the changes that you need to change, or at least show you're willing to listen to make those changes. Don't make it lip service. Make sure you get it done. And I was that 4-year-old in the double decker with my hot Cornish pasty when in 1984. I was a mascot when I was 10 away at Wolves, lost 2-1. Member, season ticket holder. Wembley in the 90s was our second home. And I'm still going.
Yeah.
Still go and watch them. My 3 kids have got no choice. They're all Leicester fans. Otherwise, we'll die off. So we'll always be there. We'll always hope, and it's the hope that kills you.
It is.
But a little bit of change. It doesn't need a nuclear bomb thrown at it. It just needs, a little grenade here and there to blow a few things and mix a few things up, and Let's hope they can go again and win it at a Canterbury.
The right changes for the future.
Yeah, too right.
I agree. But Ian, thanks for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed you coming on and chatting quite well about Leicester City, straightforward and that, straight to the point, as always, like it used to be on the radio. But I appreciate it, Ian. Have a great rest of the evening, mate, wherever you're up to.
That's kind. Cheers, Imran. Thanks, Jack. Take it easy. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Right, Imran. I mean, I'm not one for this couple of year period, but I had to ask the question anyway, because there's been a lot of debate, hasn't there, Imran, about rebuild, couple of years in the Championship. Fans have said it, haven't they? So I've had to get the question out there.
I'm kind of split though, because I can see that I can easily envisage, right, that we can spend 2 years, 3 years in the Championship.
Yeah.
But equally, I can also see us coming straight back up as well.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't see us falling through the trapdoor and going to League One unless we get hit by an enormous point. I can't see that with the squad we've got. Yeah. I can't see that. I can't see us getting relegated again. But look, I couldn't see us win the Premier League as well, right? And we won the Premier League. So I don't want to rule anything out. But if you're looking at it realistically, can't see us getting relegated next season. I think we've got a decent squad. Yeah. And if I'm being optimistic and positive, I think we can hit those playoff spots quite easily, to be honest. Especially if we have Fatawu back, Bilal Al-Kanu stays on, gives us one more season. Mavadidi is already proven in the Championship. Those three alone should we get a striker in, we'll be fine. That's how I'm thinking. But you never know, it's football.
I think that's the key thing in it, the points deduction next season. If they get minus 15, then you probably still can finish in the playoffs because you'll still win a lot of games next season. Bloody hell. Thank God it's just you two. A certain someone has 2 minutes ago. I don't know. But you know what? It's good to get different views, different perspectives of every Leicester fan. Do you know what I mean? Around the club. And that's how football is, isn't it, Imran? A lot of opinions and all that, and
but look, like what Ian said, he's right in some of the stuff that he said, but I think he was also quite coy around the communication side. I mean, we all as fans, that's why I pressed him. That's why I pressed him on that, right? Like, the club has to come out and say something, and I'm sure they will. I think they're just, like you said, that they're delaying it, but they should have come out straight after the relegation. Someone somewhere should have communicated something to the fans. I agree with Ian on the King Power bit. I can't see King Power ever, just leaving. We shouldn't be forcing them out because they've done wonders for our club. He's made mistakes. There's no doubt. As Ian said, like he's lost his dad. He's got all his businesses. He's got so much on his mind. And I think he just needs some support. And I think John Percy said the same thing to you, right? A month ago.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Rob Tanner. It was Rob Tanner, wasn't it? So.
This is the thing, though, Imran, with Leicester. They've got to get it right this summer. They have to. Yeah. They've got no choice, They've got nowhere to hide now regarding the problems at the football club. A lot needs to change. A lot needs to happen. People need to be moved on. Players need to be moved on. The wage structure needs to change massively. And we need to build around the squad. Obviously, we're not going to sell everybody, are we? Let's be honest. We'll keep the likes of Nistelrooy, Mavadidi, Fatawu. I mean, Oliver Skip will probably be one that we do keep because we're not going to let it get him sold on, are we? I mean, Ricardo's going to be one that we'll keep, and Luke Thomas, them types. But then you've just got to fill in the gaps with a team. The striker's going to be the main asset of the squad. And like you say, Imran, about culture, we need that culture back, that fight, that leader in the team, because we've not witnessed that. I know Jamie Vardy had captaincy, Ricardo, but we thought Connor Cody would actually go and do the job quite well regarding he's been captain at Wolves and that. But we need a leader in the summer to say, you know what, this is how it's going to go and this is where we want to be. And you need a team which is installed with fight and courage and everything you want to see as a football fan.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like we see Bilal running around, right? We can see he's got that desire to run after the ball and put in
That's what
those
you
hard
want.
yards. Yeah,
Not
yeah,
where
but he's not. But Bilal is not a leader, right? He'll do all of that hard work for you.
He's a tryhard.
He's a try harder, but he's not one of those that's going to motivate the rest of the players on the pitch, right? He's not going to like I think Ian just said, like when Mahrez got fouled, Vardy ran up to the Swansea defender and pushed him out the way.
Who's going to go free players?
Yeah, so as a team, we have to be like the players have to be fighting for each other.
Yeah.
One makes a mistake, it's fine. Go and put in those hard yards, win the second ball back. But our team just doesn't do that right now. You see Soumare walking around, just lazy, walking around. Christensen as well, making silly mistakes at the back, and not heads down all the time, phase fast as well. Like we need to get rid of these sort of personalities, bring in players who actually give a shit. And because we're going to need that in the championship next season, fight for each other.
This is where you need the manager. The manager's the man who's going to do that next season. Whether it's Van Nistelrooy, whether it's Russell Martin, whether it's somebody else, I mean, Van Nistelrooy's future has been very much, it was spoke about, wasn't it, last week? Nothing's happened as of yet. Russell Martin's name's gone a bit quiet on the front, hasn't it, than what it was. So it's the big decision now to bring the right manager in who can bring this togetherness in the squad again, build the club with the fans. Like Enzo did, he built the relationship, built that connection between the squad and the players again, a squad that fans can be proud of, who they can get off the seats for, who entertain them, do you get what I mean? Who give them everything. Like you Dewsbury Halls, like your Fatar Woos, you Jamie Vardy's, you've had players in the past, your Albrightons, your Steve Guppies, your Jerry Taggart, Steve Walsh, Matt Elliott, who bloody three defenders who would absolutely go through people because they want to win games. They have that desire and that courage to have that fighting momentum. You've got to leave it all out on the pitch. That's what you want from your team.
Yeah, and that's all we want. That's what I've been saying that all season, right? If you can see a team, if the whistle blows at the full-time whistle, and even if we've lost 2-0, 2-1, but as a fan that those players put in a hard graft out there, they've left everything out on the pitch.
Yeah,
you go away thinking, right, they tried their best, but we can't even say that. There were a few games this season, like Man City, we lost that game, but I went away thinking we actually didn't play that badly. Aston Villa at home this season, early on in the season, I went away thinking we didn't play that bad, even though we lost.
Little glimpses.
There were glimpses, right? That Crystal Palace away, we drew 2-2. I know Cody gave that stupid penalty away. I walked away from that game thinking we were unlucky there. That's how I want to be feeling. But most games, I was walking away thinking we were shit.
Imran, let's have a look at Rob Tanner's report. Let's have a look how he's described the season. So this season we remembered is one of the worst in the club's history. The relegation 2 years ago was shocking because of the relative success in the period up to then. Finishing in top 5 twice and then 8th. Yet the club never recovered. He's saying with Enzo, the bold.
They recovered under.
Getting them back into the Premier League as the first attempt. And after that, their efforts remain in the Premier League club were a disaster. Obviously, he's looking at Steve Cooper here. I think that's really been most fans scratching their heads this season, thinking what's going on. If anything, the club's fortunes went from bad to worse. Was following the appointment of Ruud van Nistelrooy. They were relegated with 5 games still to go and without much of a fight, although they showed better form towards the end of the season, managing a 3-game unbeaten run. The disconnect between the fan base and the senior management as the club is growing in discontent. Could spread into next season where Leicester could find it a lot harder to get promoted again. What's your initial thoughts on what Rob Tanner said there before we move on to the rest of the article?
So obviously negativity breeds negativity, right? So because we're on this negative decline right now, there are going to be thoughts out there that it's going to be a tough season next season. But I'm trying to remain positive because I just think the Premier League is there's a massive gulf between the two leagues.
Yeah.
And we just didn't, like I said, we went into the season with a weaker squad than we got promoted.
Imran, I mean, game of the season, I'll tell you what, we'll go with your best game of the season and your worst game of the season.
So
which one was your best and which one would you say was your worst?
So the best game, I have to agree with Rob there. Southampton away. I didn't attend that game, but I watched it live in Turkey because it was a half term. And when Ayew scored that goal in the last minute, I'm not joking, the hotel rooms next to me thought that there was a riot going on because me and my son were just eating chairs and just jumping on beds. So for me, just because of that, we were 2-0 down. We came back 3-2. Oh no, we weren't 2-0 down, but we were losing. We were 2-0 down, yeah. And we came back 3-2. Yeah, we were 2-0 down. Just because of that, I thought that was the best game of the season. Worst game of the season. Wow, where do we start on this one, eh?
We've had Everton away, we've had Brentford away.
Yeah, I was going to say Everton. I was at both those games, right? Everton away and Brentford away, and we took the lead at bloody Brentford, didn't we?
I'd say Everton.
Yeah, I think the Everton game was probably the worst. Yeah.
I think at home, if you went for a home perspective, you'd probably say Brentford at home and then Wolves at home.
Yeah, I'd probably say Wolves at home ahead of Brentford because Brentford were well ahead of us anyway. So I don't know, Brentford were ahead of the Wolves game was so important that we had to pick some points up in that game, and we were 3-0 down at half time. That's how bad we were.
Rob Tanner talks about goal of the season. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Leicester haven't scored many goals. It is 46 goals from 43 games across all competitions this season, and 10 of those were against in cup wins over lower league opposition, with 4 of them against Tranmere and 6 of them against Queen's Park Rangers. They had a spell where they scored just once in 9 consecutive games across all competitions. I mean, goal of the season.
I'm going for Jordan Ayew against Tranmere.
I kind of think Jordan Ayew against Tranmere was the best goal. But then I'd say Jamie Vardy's against Ipswich. But then you got James Justin against Arsenal, haven't you?
Yes.
It's got to be Justin's for me.
Yeah. I got that on video as well, didn't I? That one.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. No, that was a fantastic goal as well. Yeah, I mean, Jordan Ayew's goal was good because I think it's because I had a good angle on it. I was sitting on another stand on that game. I changed my seat. But yeah, James Justin's strike.
Yeah,
we have to give it to James Justin with that because it was a sweet volley.
Yeah, agreed. Wolves at home, Rube decided to play Danny Ward when his reputation gets damaged. Uncle Ayew Ipswich away, it was a good build-up. I mean, Tamare played probably the blinder in that game.
Yes, that's the only thing he's done all season.
Moments of the season, Rob Tanner's gone for Jamie Vardy. The farewell, 200th goal in his 500 appearances. I think that's the best one. Phenomenal send-off. After 13 incredible service and success, will live long in the memory to see his former teammates breathe now an end of an unbelievable era. Some would call it the golden era. Obviously, Jamie Vardy was the last man of the 15-16 title-winning team, Imran. That was my best moment of the season, if I'm honest. Worst moment, Jesus. What would be worst moment, Imran? I'd probably say losing to Nottingham Forest at home.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things, right? You said the worst game, our worst performance, and the worst moment. They kind of correlate, don't they? So yeah, Forest at home was a sickening blow. But even I think when relegation was confirmed against Liverpool, that was a worse moment for me as well, because the final nail was hit then, wasn't it? We were relegated, so that was not a good moment as well, knowing that we were relegated that evening when we lost to Liverpool.
Yeah, did that really happen? Cooper was only 7 games into his tenure when he experienced for himself as the growing discontent amongst a large portion of Leicester fans. He looked completely perplexed as Leicester fans turned on their own team second half in the Carabao Cup game against Walsall. With the score goalless, I mean, that was bloody awful performance of bloody Walsall. He's heard some disagreeing voices during the 1-1 draw with Everton, but Leicester fans chanted this is embarrassing amongst a list of self-disputing chances Cooper's side struggles. Afterwards, he admitted he had to earn some credit with the Leicester fans. What would have been your favourite quote? Obviously, Rob Tanner's gone with Jamie Vardy's regarding the season, calling it embarrassing and an absolute shit show. That would have been the favourable quote.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one was the most honest quote, and also the most heartfelt quote, because that's how most of us felt as well. So I think Vardy came out and spoke the truth.
Biggest surprise, I think most people were surprised that Leicester stuck with Van Nistelrooy when the team were in freefall, losing 17 out of 19 games, failing to score in 8 consecutive league games and losing 8 consecutive games on home soil without a single goal. Most managers find their position untenable after such a bad run, but nothing about Leicester's season has been conventional. I mean, since then, despite Ruud van Nistelrooy presenting his plans for moving forward, the club has revealed nothing about what the plan actually is to Van Nistelrooy or anything else, leaving the manager in limbo and causing more vexation amongst the fan base. Funniest moment would probably be Jamie Vardy's blowing the whistle on the referee. Score out of 10 regarding the manager. Rob Tanner's gave him a 3. I think I'd give him less than that. But the issue with the summer, Imran, recruitment starting with who will be the manager, a massive overhaul is needed and required. But under what circumstances or conditions the EFL will be scrutinising Leicester's every move and every pound spent? What do you sort of say on that one, Imran?
Yeah, I mean, Rob's a well seasoned journalist, right? And he writes well. And you've got to say, like, that's why The Athletic is so prominent nowadays. You know, it's a good read. And yeah, most of the stuff he said there, I think most fans would agree with it for sure.
We didn't keep a single away clean sheet this season. That kind of sums it up, to be fair, doesn't it? But
yeah.
That is it, Imran. Leicester City were relegated then, back to the Championship. It was a bloody short stint and probably a worse stint, if I'm honest, at that one. It got from bad to worse. If you had to sum it up in one word, Imran, what would you use?
Catastrophic.
Catastrophic. I'd say embarrassing, but I think I'd probably use a worse word than that, but it is what it is.
We forgot to ask Ian Stringer about the training ground. Right? Because ever since we've moved in there, there's been a correlation of poor results as well, right? Like, okay, if you take away last season, we've not exactly, you know, we've not tore anything down, have we? Since we've moved in there, we've just been. It's like a holiday camp, isn't it? That's what most fans are saying.
It's even holidays, isn't it? Without the caravans and that, you know what I'm saying?
Even the players don't even want to, like Harry Winks don't even want to go holiday in there anyway. He's happy.
It must be bad.
Yeah, he's happy just doing the day trip. So
But no, Imran, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll have to get you on again soon. But I really appreciate it, mate. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.
All right, take care, guys.
That's Imran. Thanks to Ian Stringer as well for coming on and giving me his views on everything regarding this season and that and the club as a whole. Really appreciate his time. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed to the channel. Please get down and do so. Help me out massively. We've got plenty more shows to come in the summer regarding transfer window. The fixtures coming out as well and much more. But yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great rest of the evening, wherever you're up to, and I'll catch you again soon. Keep it at the final whistle. Good night. Hi all, thank you for watching the final whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share, and subscribe to the channel.